Hello and welcome back to Trail Talk, where we talk about RC while driving RC trucks on the trails. Joining us today for episode 3 is the All-Star 8560. And if you haven't seen my video on this truck already, you should, because it is a budget beast and is absolutely worth anybody's attention if you're interested in a TRX-4M or any small-scale RC crawler. Anyway, moving on to today's topic, we are going to be talking about burnout. So burnout is basically, to me, when, too much of a good thing starts happening there and you start to lose the joy that you had in it, and it's just not as fun anymore, and you might even kind of be getting bored with whatever it is that you're burnt out on. Now, there are a few ways that you can deal with burnout in RC without taking a step back from the hobby or getting out of the hobby. One of the main ways is to sort of identify what it is actually that you're burnt out on. A lot of times, maybe you're just doing the same thing too much. Maybe you're really into building scale rigs, and you've been building them for months and months and months, and you have so many, and you're finding out that you're just not really having as much fun doing that. Well, it could be as simple as simply just going out and driving those rigs, but it could also be as complex as needing to try something else out within the hobby. Now, the beautiful thing about RC is that there are so many different ways to enjoy this hobby. So the best way to deal with this that I can think of is the way that I deal with burnout myself, and that is by cycling the kind of activities that I do in RC. Sometimes I'm on the trails, sometimes I'm at the track, and other times I'm in a field and I'm doing some bashing. But no matter what, I am constantly still doing RC stuff, and I never ever feel burnt out because I'm always doing kind of a different activity within the hobby. So if you're feeling burnt out and you think that you're doing the same thing just a little bit too much, maybe switch it up a little bit. Maybe switch it up a lot of it with a broad change, like going from building scale rigs to racing a type of RC car, or maybe even something crazy like flying RC planes. Keeping it fresh by cycling things is probably, in my opinion, the best way to make sure that you don't get burnt out. Now, this next type of burnout, so the first one that we talked about is really boredom based. It's like you're getting bored with doing the same activity, you're doing the same thing too often, and you're not exploring enough of what else is out there. This next kind of burnout is actually more of a abundance burnout. It's more of a jaded burnout. It's kind of like a spoiled kid burnout, and I experience it myself as well because I'm making videos on these things, and I have a ton of rigs, and I have a lot of really high performing stuff as well. And sometimes I feel I can't be surprised anymore. And I would imagine that there are some of you guys out there watching these videos that feel the same, especially in the mini crowd, because it's easy to have 20 of these things. So if you're running into this jaded kind of burnout, what I have found to be helpful is, one, you can try my first point. You can try to get into a different part of the hobby and see how that works for you, because you will feel surprised and different by doing something different. But another way to do it is to limit yourself. And it's kind of what I'm doing in this video, actually, is I'm driving a stock truck, okay? And I'm trying the same lines that I try with all the other trucks, and it's all edited out, but I have crashed and I have flipped over a few times while filming this very stuff here, and I've tried lines that just weren't gonna happen, and it was fun though. That's the point, is that it was fun. It's fun to try and struggle with something that isn't quite built to the teeth, and to have to try a little bit harder to achieve what you want to. So I do think that limiting yourself or something like that can really help you feel less burnt out, and it'll help you have more appreciation for some of the better stuff that you do have, because it's sometimes you forget that it's actually kind of hard to make it up this rock. And that's not to say that this is limited to just trail trucks and rock crawlers and the type of RC that we've been doing on this channel lately. If you're into racing, maybe try out the spec and the stock class, because those are a lot of fun. Usually they're a little bit less serious, but extra competitive, just because you're so limited that, it's just very fun. The races are a lot tighter. And you also get to educate beginners, which is fun and fulfilling. And if you're into bashing, I don't know if this is really going to apply to you as much. I guess you could go for a lower performance basher and try to limit yourself. But I think when it comes to bashing, that high performance, high durability is the main thing. You know, you just don't want to break stuff. So if you're feeling burnout and you're a basher, then we should go back to point one, where it's probably time to look into a different type of RC enjoyment so that you'll come back to bashing feeling fresh. Now, there's another kind of burnout that it's a little bit harder to deal with depending on where you're at in the world, but I like to call this the Lone Ranger burnout, and it's something that I've experienced, and I know others that have experienced this as well. It's just when you don't have anybody in the community to kind of share the hobby with and enjoy it with. You don't have, you just don't have any friends in it. So in order to deal with this, honestly, I would suggest that you seek out in your area things like tracks, groups like Facebook groups that like to do events for maybe rock crawling or trail truck kind of stuff. There normally is this kind of stuff nearby, depending on where you're at. If you're extra remote and you can't really get to anything like this, then unfortunately we're gonna kind of have to lean on things like the internet in order to, have that community. But you can still have it, like maybe start an Instagram and start posting your builds on there and the stuff you've been working on. And there's people out there to talk to. Reddit is a great resource. There's all sorts of different kind of ways to get community. But if you do have a track or a group nearby, I would suggest that you get involved or even start your own little group and see how you can go from there, because having a community to enjoy RC with is super rewarding, and it definitely makes the hobby a lot more fun, and it certainly is something that'll help keep you in the hobby. Now, we haven't covered every possible way to be burnt out, and I don't think there's any possible way to do that. Like, for instance, maybe you're just frustrated with a certain activity in the hobby, and my advice for that real quick would just be to not do that one activity if possible. Like if you don't like painting, buy painted bodies. If you don't like wrenching, I guess you could have Hobbytown fix your truck for you or your car. But yeah, how do you guys feel burnout? Have you run into burnout in RC, and if you have, like, what do you think it was that caused it? I'd love to hear about that and see what you guys think. Anyway, thank you for watching Trail Talk Episode 3. It was a fun one. This segment is still experimental, so your likes and your comments on this will decide whether or not I'll keep making these videos. Anyway, with that being said, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.